Welcome to Beers, Business, and Balls, presented by House Enterprise and brought to you by Manscaped. Go to manscaped.com, use the code HOUSE at checkout. You can get 20% off your order and free shipping around the world. And by the DraftKings Sportsbook, use the code BBB. You get some bonus bets. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook today. It is the thick of October, and we've hit our tradition. It is spooky season kickoff. And there is no better person to bring on, arguably the man who invented spooky season on Twitter. I think you have a legitimate claim to that, Con. But at least a rapid accelerator of all things spooky, all things unexplained, morbid facts. You know him from TikTok on Con Spiracy. Welcome again. I think this is appearance number 4 for you. Does that sound right?
I think it is. Yes, sir. Hello, gentlemen. Good to be back.
Let's get spooky. Hall of Fame time. I think it's Hall of Fame time now.
I better get my plaque in the mail soon.
I will say
in the mail. Yeah. We are displaced from home base, so Photoshop this in as official Hall of Fame guest, Con Spiracy.
Excellent.
Congratulations. Now you are in an elite crew. You are with I think, is Clubfoot Jim in the Hall of Fame technically or no?
Technically.
I think he is. I think I saw a post about him being in it.
Yeah, so you're overdue.
Appreciate
Sean
that.
Fanta, Dave Silverman, Eric Dunn, and Zayd Adani, all in the Hall of Fame.
That is a list of names. Damn.
Con Spiracy.
Up there with Eric Dunn. It's one of my idols.
Cool. Not too shabby.
Eric Dunn from Let Me Eat Yo Ass on Spotify. Yes, that's the right one. Welcome to the show, Con. What's new? You're still grinding on TikTok and all this stuff, but how's stuff going?
It's going well. I'm always at the behest of algorithms. You never know which platform's going to pop off. Right now, I'd say I'm doing the best on YouTube and Insta. I just hit 500K on Insta. I'm at like 490 on YouTube. TikTok is kind of a plateau. It has its up and downs. They always mess with the algorithm on there, and you never know what's going to actually work, what type of content. I'm always switching things up to try to keep up with it, but I'm never in control at the end of the day, but that's part of the gig.
So we did last year. I'm looking at the description from last year. We talked about a lot of cool stuff. This was October 6th of last year, and we talked about the Salem witch trials, and we basically determined everybody that was a witch probably just had like a fungus and a rye bread. That was pretty fun.
Ergot poisoning.
Yeah, crazy shit. We talked about the odds if vampire and sleeper cells are living among us in America, which I don't really know if we ever got to a resolution. I think sleeper cells probably exist.
For sure.
It's crazy shit. And then we talked about the man who killed Halloween. That was pretty fucking crazy. The dude that killed his kid, right? Did he
killed his kid, poisoned his kid with cyanide, put it in his pixie sticks to collect his insurance money, basically.
Yeah.
And that's the only time that a kid has ever been poisoned through Halloween candy by his own dad. I mean, in general, but it happened to me by his own dad.
That's so crazy.
It's so fucked up, but I think that's the bar we have to set on this show. There's been a lot of stuff that went down this year. That's really crazy. We're going to talk about UFOs. We're going to talk about some really other crazy shit because there was a lot of
stuff, man. It was a morbid year.
Yeah, I think this was like the first year. I don't know. Has there been another year where we've seen like all this stuff come to light in a mainstream fashion? Like everybody all of a sudden was talking about UFOs. Like not just the people that were scrolling on social media. Like anyone with access to cable was talking about like, oh, does extraterrestrial life exist? Like I can't name another year that it's been that close.
No, it's getting crazy. It's a very exciting time for the UFO community, I would say.
Yeah. Well, we're excited to dive in a little bit. We'll start off with a quick beer segment. The drill, rate a beer, give it the untapped sort of rating, increments of 0.25, 5 being the best, 1 being the worst. We will go first and set the example for you. Tondo, if you've got a beer, the floor is yours.
Do I have a beer? Probably, but I'm going to change it because it is spooky season. So, and to honor my Connecticut friends on this show, we're gonna go Rosemary's Road. What is it?
Wow. Thank you for your
Rosemary's
service.
Baby.
Rosemary's Baby from Two Roads. It was on tap recently at a place in Rhode Island, and I was like, holy crap. It was actually at New Harvest Coffee in Providence, which they turn into, a bar afterwards. And I saw that on tap, and I go, first off, coffee shop having it, pretty cool. Second, to watch Two Roads grow year after year, especially knowing you guys, learning more about craft beer. So it's the Halloween season. Rosemary's Baby is a great fall beer, especially in the month of October.
No doubt.
4.4 out of 5 for me, because just the nostalgic and the 'tis the season, I guess.
Fantastic.
Excellent.
Did they do a cinnamon rim is the question.
They did do a cinnamon rim.
Wow.
It's a game changer. I think
Nope.
the next show we do will have to be the pumpkin beer sort of Mount Rushmore for this season.
Mhm.
There's a lot of good pumpkin beer out there, and Rosemary's Baby no exception. That's like the gold standard in Connecticut here anyway. Fantastic shit.
I would say so. Would you guys say Two Roads is the biggest, or at least the most well-known brewery in Connecticut now?
I can't really name another that has the reach besides maybe back east, potentially.
Two Roads
Yeah,
I saw up in Vermont this past summer, which is crazy.
Yeah.
They have it everywhere, dude. It's massive.
I guess when you throw in, is it open yet? But Treehouse, once they get one.
I guess so.
Um,
I think it is open in Woodstock.
yeah. In
Really?
terms of
They have
like,
one in Connecticut?
Yeah.
Woodstock,
Wow.
Connecticut.
Hmm.
In terms of like reach and brand identity, I would definitely put Two Roads. But for best brewery, maybe Fox Farm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fox Farm's a good one.
Shout out John Coppola, Con. John Coppola drinks a lot of Fox Farm.
Does he?
Yeah.
How about that? I haven't had too much of it, to be honest. I got to get up there more.
I'm trying to think what else is like.
I mean,
East is definitely a good one.
Do you count Athletic? That's a big one.
Not at all.
Our friends at Athletic Brewing. Hey, we've at least got to respect their hustle.
No, it's fine.
I saw them being advertised in Vegas. That was crazy.
They're all over.
That's another one. It's got a lot of reach. Like, yeah, it's not alcoholic, obviously, but like it has a lot of reach. They're going everywhere right now.
Insane.
So I would say back east and Two Roads. I don't think it's certainly like you can find it the farthest for sure. Yeah, it's interesting. So we'll do our pumpkin beers next week. But Rosemary's Baby, I put right up there with a lot of them. So a couple weeks ago, we had on Mark Denote from Florida Beer News. We had a little beer swap. We went over to Salem, Mass. We got some beers that he wanted. He sent some back up. So shout out Mark. Thanks a bunch for the beer. A lot of Angry Chair, which I dropped off to you, Will. Hopefully that was good. I have not dipped into the IPAs yet, but I actually just tried Full Circle, which is their light American lager. This was very light. It was 3.5%. Extremely crushable. Put in the fridge for a couple hours. It was super cold, super easy to drink. Had it with dinner. This was. I'm going to make an egregious claim. This was the best lager I had this year, actually. Had a lot of lighter beers, had a lot of lagers, and I think Angry Chair Brewing, they take the cake. So that's one of the more titans that we learned about from Mark a couple weeks ago in Tampa. I gave that a 4 out of 5, which is almost unheard of for a lager right there. Yeah, I'm still drinking lagers. We're in fall. I drank them in spring. I drank them in the summer, and I'm drinking them in the fall. And I plan to not. Yeah, I plan to not stop that. So 4 out of 5. Very crushable. Shouts to Angry Chair Brewing in Tampa, and thank you, Mark Denote, for the beer. Delicious. Con, we'll go to you. Got anything you've had recently that you'd like to shout out?
Well, I always have to give a shout out to the Zoppi boys at Bad Sons, and they do have a new beer called Melonhead. It's a hazy IPA, and John Zappi personally said he's not an IPA guy, but he said this IPA I actually really enjoy, and it's like it has like a melony twang to it, if that's the proper verbiage. I would give it probably a 4.1 out of 5. It's one of the better new beers that I've tried recently. I also only ever go to Bad Sons, so I'm not the best to ask. And it's also in season, Melonheads, spooky season.
That's true. Yeah,
True.
Connecticut. People forget
Local
Shelton,
lore.
Connecticut, home to the alleged Melonheads.
Big time.
What are the Melonheads?
You don't know about the Melonheads.
Oh, wait, that
don't.
we might have to add that too now. Jeez. Well,
We'll
is
make
that
it
a
fun.
good? That might be our segue into spooky season here.
Sure.
Let's start with a nice little Melonhead appetizer here. Please enlighten us on the legend of the Melonheads in Shelton.
Well, that's one that we all grew up on in Shelton, the Melonheads. There's a bunch of roads in the area where people say, oh, if you drive down this, turn off your headlights, then these humanoid creatures called the Melonheads will come out they're these little creatures supposedly with these giant heads. And apparently a bunch of people escaped from a mental hospital in like the 60s. Maybe it was Fairfield Hills, one of those around here. And they basically inbred with each other in the woods and developed what's it called, cephalitis, where their heads become enormous, and they're cannibals as well.
Yeah, I just
And
Googled some
they're out
photos
there.
and
I think they're in
Interesting.
Michigan too, maybe Ohio.
It's right outside Cleveland.
I think
Yeah,
that whole type of horror isn't that it's not brought up enough because I think we're so far removed from insane asylums and like how they were these massive properties and then obviously they all closed down or people escaped and stuff like that. Like it's 2023 now and now we're 40 years out of it, but some of the stuff that came out of the insane asylums like across especially New England, crazy.
Some
Like
of the
there's a couple
darkest
on
stuff
Long
you could
Island
talk
that
about.
what's up?
Some of the darkest stuff you could talk about, no
Yeah.
question.
Because it's like that's the stuff that could be the most fabricated, but also the most realistic, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because like they truly were crazy people, or they were just mentally and physically sick. Yeah,
It's true.
Had ADD, and they were given lobotomies. Their brains were mashed. Insane.
It's wild. And I think so. In Shelton, for the non-Connecticut listeners, there's a road, that basically spans like one side of Shelton for the other. It's kind of like in a mountainous region anyway. It's called Sawmill City Drive, and it's been designated as Dracula Drive and a lot of folklore and stuff like that. It runs. I don't think there's a more wooded area in the whole town, maybe in the county of Fairfield, like that you're just literally driving through the woods.
It's spooky.
There's spooky. No sign of life in sight. And there's been accounts from hundreds of people that have gone down there and said, oh, I've seen this. I was approached by a Melonhead. I heard something that was not of any like human creature or animal or something like that. So this shit's scary is the bottom line.
Yep. And and Connecticut is definitely known for its mental hospitals. So it makes sense.
There's a lot of crazy shit out here. Like the Conjuring house is, mere minutes from where we grew up. A lot of accounts of that. And there's similar stories in Newtown and Trumbull and stuff like that. And Newtown even, they've built a whole identity around the spookiness, right? They've built like New Silent Brewing too. Like they built a brewery inside Fairfield Hills, which is the old mental hospital over there. Like why is this region just so like, is there any reason we could point to be like, this region is just so fucked up with that stuff?
I can't say really.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people who are from outside Connecticut say Connecticut is just a creepy state. It's just known as a creepy state. I can't say why.
Whatever's in the water, my friends. I don't know.
That's it, yeah.
I don't know. So that's the melon heads. Are you educated on that now, Tondo? You feel
I'm educated. I Googled some photos and I am all set visiting Shelton, Connecticut in nighttime at least. Crazy.
Yeah, the melon heads are, they've got that hayride over there too, that like they take you through the back. What's that farm on the corner? It's like they built it
Fairview.
right at some, yeah, it's Fairview.
Farm.
It's Fairview Farm, and they do
The
like
Legends of Fear. They have like a really good like haunted walk. It's awesome.
oh,
They've
it's
like built
great. They've
houses
got
for it.
chainsaws. They have like real chainsaws
They
with
have
gas.
real chainsaws. Yep.
That's
So
insane.
don't be doing that if that shit freaks you out, folks. But if it doesn't,
it's all safe. It's all
yeah,
fun games.
if it doesn't bother you, I mean, it's an awesome experience.
Just don't walk off the path because a melon head might get you.
Dude, yeah, do not walk off the path. Really spooky stuff this year, and I think the stuff that's been on everybody's mind when they think of Morbid or extra-terrestrial is the UFOs. Over the summer, I mean, we got reports that the US is now receiving dozens of reports of unidentified objects per month in the air. The Pentagon is getting involved. There's been Congress hearings about UFOs and UAPs, which are unidentified, anonymous something. I don't know. They're using that term now in legal proceedings and shit. But what, in plain sight, Con, what is with all the uptick in the UFO interest this year?
So I wouldn't say it's an uptick in how often or the activity, how often they're visiting, or how often we're seeing these things. I think we've just gotten better at detecting them. I think we're looking for them more. And I think with all the recent national security concerns, like the Chinese spy balloon, for example, we're just looking at the sky a lot more. So we can detect these objects. I mean, if you look at the new Samsung Galaxy, could practically see the rings of Saturn on that thing. You can only imagine what the government has in terms of detecting certain things in our atmosphere. So I don't think it's an uptick in activity, although it could be an uptick in activity. There's people who are saying that because people across the globe have gotten more aggressive, that they're visiting us more. But I think it's more so just our ability to detect them. We're looking more.
Yeah, it's definitely crazy, and from my person, I mean, anyone who believes that, and we've talked about this on the show, if we're the only light forms on all of the solar systems and all of the millions of light years, like you're just naive at that point. Like you can't think that way, that we're the smartest ones as a whole. Like there's obviously life that has been talked about for hundreds and hundreds of years that aren't present on the earth. My thing now is like, okay, 2023, yes, we're more technologically advanced, we're more connected because of social media and the capabilities on our phones and stuff. I also see it as a distraction. What's going on the other side that now we're hearing about this stuff?
Right, exactly. 100%. So much
That's
chaos in the world.
So
Seems
much
all
chaos.
too perfect for them to pull it out now,
And no one's like batting an eye. Everyone's like, yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, that's the scary thing. This news cycle is just so chaotic recently. People are just like, that's crazy. There's alien life, but well, who's Taylor Swift dating?
Yeah. Or like, yeah, there's alien life. Are they paying my bills?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true.
People have too much to worry about. It's the type of topic where you have to really go all in on to figure out what's actually going on, and you still won't get the answers.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too, right? Like, had in some talking points, like, is it a coincidence that doesn't really sound like it's a coincidence that this administration and like just the news outlets in general, not to get political, but like the world's on fire, but quite literally, like there are things burning in this world.
Why?
But it's, is it a coincidence that all this information is coming out at the moment? Like, probably not.
I wouldn't say so.
Yeah. I don't know. it's intriguing, but I want to talk about the Congress hearings too, because I actually watched a few of these over the summer. David Grusch, who was a pretty popular one, former Air Force intel officer, he basically testified in front of Congress that the U.S. government has made it nearly impossible to report claims from pilots or from people who are or just observers or anything like that. And he also went so far as to say, like, yeah, the government's also like trying to silence these people too, right? Like they're trying to cover this stuff up. So I don't know. I get conflicted with these sort of whistleblower claims, right? Because it's a guy that, maybe things didn't go right for him. Maybe he didn't advance far enough as he wanted to. But can we, I always have a trouble like finding that line of, is this guy like, is there merit to what he's saying, or is he just sort of some lunatic that's like trying to get everything out? So I mean, what were your impressions of the Congress stuff that came out this summer? And should we really believe it at its core, do you think?
Well, apparently I would say he is a credible guy. He was apparently commissioned by the government to actually seek some of these things out, to actually figure out if there are secret government projects that are working on this type of technology. Wow, I lost my train of thought horribly. Fuck, my bad.
That's all good. Hey, this shit happens when you're embedded in this stuff.
You're good. I mean, I'll chime in the beginning. So you're talking about the Congress hearings and stuff like that. And again, it's one of those things where there's just no trust in politics and media right now, that anything that they say is like, okay, what is the truth and what's not? That's where I'm at, where it's like, obviously, there's concrete evidence, but now we're also in a world where, and this is getting super deep now, but with like AI imaging and like recreation on stuff, like the fact that you can create better quality deep fakes from your phone on applications than Hollywood can with a green screen is pretty freaking wild. So you don't know what's true and what's not anymore.
100%.
Yeah. I don't know, because I think his allegations are like, I'm fully with that, right? It's so easy to fabricate evidence, and I'm worried about like, what implications those are long term. But I think the way this guy spoke was that, like, it was in very specific information. It was, hey, there are X amount of reports. I forget what the number was. Almost none of them have any follow-up activity on them. And it's the policies we have in place as a government are sort of discouraging people from.
Right, exactly. There's no formal process. There's no formal process for actually reporting these
and
things.
that was his big complaint, which I think has a lot of merit to it personally. But like, it makes you sort of wonder, like, is this, and it's a question that nobody can really answer, but like, is this intentional, that there's no formal process to sort of have this and document it all and follow up on, right?
Right. Well, I think a lot of it is they don't know what to do with this information. What do you tell people?
Yeah. I don't think you can tell them a hell of a lot.
Do we know it's extraterrestrials? Is it humans? It could very well be humans.
All right.
We have no idea. Is it China? Is it Russia? Probably not. They would have exploited it by now, right? So there's just so many questions. I think this hearing was basically addressing the problem, and they don't have the answers. He publicly came out and said that they have alien crafts, they have alien bodies, they have a retrieval program, and they have a reverse engineering program. But it leaves so many questions on the table as to where is the actual evidence. That's what people are looking for.
But then, like, what's crazy is he goes a step further and says, like, I'm just reading this from a report. It says he claimed secondhand knowledge that American citizens have been harmed and killed as part of the government efforts to cover up this information, which I think is like, that's a pretty bold allegation that like people are coming forward and saying, hey, I know this, and they're getting either blackmailed or potentially killed. I mean, like that's
That makes
sort of where like I start to lose like, all right, is this guy just like is he out of his tree, or like could that even remotely be true, right? That's just where I start to lose him, because I don't doubt that it's a shit show behind the scenes, but like, you know, to allege that people were harmed or killed that's a real allegation, you know.
if what he's saying is true, it makes me think that these crafts have a human connection or origin, even because it sounds like there could be these secret government projects that don't want this information to come out.
It's like that one episode, one of the recent seasons of American Horror Story, how the president made a deal with the devil with the extraterrestrials, that they're just like, hey, you're gonna pretend like we're not here. You're gonna lose a couple people every year, and we might show some sightings, but we're just creating news cycles for some kind of whatever project they're working on, and everyone's just like, okay.
Yeah, exactly. And well, sort of aside from that, there's people who theorize that this is something called Project Bluebeam, where they're basically fabricating all this alien phenomena, and it's just a massive plan to scare people and fake an alien invasion so that they can gain more control. That's like a pretty popular conspiracy theory. Bluebeam. Alex Jones himself said, once the government starts talking about aliens, that's when we should start freaking out, because it means that they're up to no good. I'm not saying listen to Alex Jones, but sometimes he's right.
Right. Like I don't doubt that he's been right on some things, but generally not like a great source of truth or absolute truth anyway, right?
Yeah,
Given his track record. But he has been right about some stuff.
he's been right a couple times.
I'm perfectly fine admitting that. I don't know, like people keep pointing like the response to this stuff was, well, we don't really have evidence and we probably won't. So like, I mean, what in your eyes, like where's the point that we have proof? Because like we're never gonna really have evidence, it doesn't seem like even when people are coming forward, we'll talk about this with aliens in a minute here, but like people come forward with these things and say, hey, this is what's going on, but we don't have evidence. Like, when are we ever going to get to that point where it's just like, yeah, this works for like concrete proof here?
I think the government 100% has the smoking gun. I've heard multiple sources of, at least through podcasts, there are people on the inside who say the government has the smoking gun, but they refuse to release it. So it's there, but we're also at the point where, like you said, how much evidence do people need to actually believe it? I mean, you see one picture of it and the internet's immediately going to say, oh, fake,
Yeah.
AI generated or whatever. It's just so easy to fake stuff now. So the longer that they wait to release stuff, the harder it'll be to actually get people to believe that this is a real thing, which is unfortunate, but we'll see. I mean, maybe at some point they are coming here every day and we'll start seeing them flying above our houses. I think that's the only point at which people will start turning their eyes towards this and away from Taylor Swift and all
And
that.
fucking TikTok dances and shit. But I think we're over that anyway. But I mean, I don't know, but let's say the government does release the smoking gun. I mean, does that theoretically put the world into just as much chaos without knowing? Like they put it out and say, like, yeah, we'll put the body of some alien on display if you really want to look at it. Like, do people immediately discredit it as fake? Of course they will, but like, do the people that do believe that, does that just throw the spiral altogether too and try to discredit the government or threaten it or upheave it, right? I don't know what the answer to that is either.
Right. I would hope that something like that would at least unite us as humans, We'll have a common enemy, or at least
I guess there's a 0%
something in
chance
common.
that happens. Though,
Or
right?
you take it a step further, and who weaponizes aliens and extraterrestrials first?
Well, I think that's a big part of why there's a lot of secrecy around it, because of national security. whoever gets a hold of that technology is top of the food chain automatically for the rest of the time on this planet, you know? From what they're describing, it sounds like such a massive leap in technology that it would just put any country so far ahead of the others.
That didn't
So
even
that could be
cross my
part of it.
mind. That's a crazy way to look at it, but it makes sense. It's like, US gets their hand, like, what if Russia gets their hands on, like, extraterrestrial technology? Like, how do they turn that into a what's 10 times above a nuclear weapon, right? Like, that is utter just end of world type of shit,
Exactly.
man.
Scary stuff. Scary stuff. We haven't even got to the crux of it, so let's keep it going.
That shit's insane. Aliens off the fuck. I'm like the History Channel meme. It's just like the dude with the hair. Aliens.
Oh yeah, Georgios Tsoukalos, legend.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my god.
What do you
Classic.
guys think about it? What do you guys think is actually going on? What's the phenomena? Is it aliens?
I mean,
I'll tell you my answer after this. I have a long answer.
You're the expert, so lead us off.
Well, I think it's a mixture of both alien and human crafts. I think we retrieved crafts in the 50s and 60s, maybe as early as the 40s, and we actually did figure out how to reverse engineer them and create them. And I don't think it's government projects. I think it's government industrial complex companies such as Lockheed Skunk Works, Raytheon, that are basically taking black money and putting it towards these secret projects to develop these things that we have no idea what they're capable of. For example, look at it this way. Supposedly a B-2 bomber only costs around $200 million to produce, but on paper, they tell the government it costs around $2 billion. So the rest of that money, they're just putting towards these black money projects, and God knows what they're actually developing in there. But it all comes down to, have they retrieved crafts? I think they have at this point. I'm leaning towards it more.
So
I'm at
you're
least
saying more.
entertaining the idea.
You're saying more on the private specter.
Yes, exactly. I think so.
Wow.
I think that also may be part of why these hearings are happening. It's possible that the government is genuinely concerned about the amount of power that these private companies have and the crazy technology that they're developing way faster than anyone else, and the type of technology that would change the world and every industry as we know it. I just entertain the idea. That's a lot to put on the table.
Yeah, no, it's true, but I mean, like, you look at Lockheed Skunk Works, and that's, I think, if I'm understanding correctly, it's just like it's like Lockheed's advanced division, right? Like, it's just the shit that's just so far outside like their core as a government contractor. Like you just look up Lockheed Skunk Works and it says, how do you define the next generation, right? So like it almost makes sense. Like I'd be worried if they hadn't experimented with some of that shit. Like, because if they are tasked to figure out, like, you can't fucking convince me that they're just playing around with hydrogen or like canola oil based planes, like the private sector's doing, like for commercial purposes. Right. Like, you can't fucking fool us. I would certainly be worried if they haven't at least experimented with that kind of shit.
Well, deeper conspiracy. It's like, how don't we have an off topic but on topic? How don't we have engines that can run on water yet and hydrogen? Like, come on.
Right, exactly.
Like, it gets to the point where it's like, if we're having this conversation about private companies harvesting prior extraterrestrial technology and rebuilding it, right? Like, I mean, I answered my own question on why we don't have this stuff, because big oil's in their pocket or
100%.
Big pharma's in their pocket in terms of like the medical stuff. But it's just crazy that no one's been able to crack that code if this is all true.
Well, did you ever hear of the guy? I forget his name, but he supposedly came up with a water-powered engine, and then he was meeting with investors, and he ran out of the building apparently, and he was choking, and he told his brother they poisoned me, and then he died. That's a real story.
Holy shit.
I wish I knew his name.
Not a
I
coincidence.
posted about this a few times, but
Yeah, not a
true story.
coincidence.
Exactly. Way too
And
much
how are
money.
how are these private companies that you're talking about, like a Raytheon, how are they connected to BlackRock?
Oh, I mean, BlackRock basically owns all of them. BlackRock is their number one investor.
Yeah.
BlackRock has more power than Congress. If you look at it that way, I mean, who knows what these people are capable of?
Yeah, shit's insane.
Mm-hmm.
With the amount of information that you know and like all the stuff that goes on your head, how do you sleep?
ADHD. My brain can easily turn off from terrible topics.
You just like you have the knowledge of like so much just like deep dark shit.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it only comes up when somebody brings it up, but yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's all right. I do it every night.
What about like all the people that like constantly talk to you? I mean, I'm sure you get a lot of like information sent to you and stuff like that. Like, how do you vet the process of what you believe and what you don't?
I usually would say you're innocent until proven guilty. I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. I've heard a lot of crazy experiences that people have. I've had some of my own. So, I mean, I try to give people the benefit of the doubt for the most part.
Interesting. And then you just dive into your own research too?
Yeah, of course. I mean, anything that I'm not going to post anything unless I could get concrete evidence that it's true.
Right.
I mean, I remember very early on, we were talking about some of it, right? When you were on Reddit a bunch still. I mean, like, are you still using Reddit as a big source for all this kind of stuff? Or are you pivoting away, going like more into the personal stuff? Like, how's that work?
I'm still using like Reddit with very like broad topic stuff. Well, Reddit is kind of fallen off recently, big time. Something happened in the summer that has caused a lot of subreddits to just completely tank. I'm not sure what it is, but yeah, for the most part, I'm still using like Instagram, Reddit, online sources, not so much personal sources. I mean, at this point, a lot of friends will just say, "Hey, I came across this," and I'll look it up and say, "Oh, wow, yeah, that's a good one."
Yeah, I don't know what I would do just with being in your brain, just knowing all like the world's darkest shit. Like, it's daunting.
Yeah. It's a lot.
You're carrying the torch of morbidity and just so far out there stuff. Like, it's a big undertaking. You have a big responsibility to the world now.
Right? Yeah. It's a lot of stuff flowing around up there.
I do want to touch on the Mexico stuff with aliens specifically, because almost right after this UFO incident, we had folks in Mexico. Basically, they had a congressional hearing of their own, and they said they recovered 2 tiny bodies in Peru many years ago. These fucking things had like 3 fingers, and it was really weird. They had like
one of them pregnant. One of them was like pregnant with eggs.
Yeah, super weird shit. Guy named Jaime Maussan or whatever claimed they were aliens. He's been studying this shit for a long time. He says there's no doubt, basically. So, I don't know what your impressions were, but this was something that I feel like was totally brushed under the rug because so much stuff was going on in like August, September, and it just got brushed. That's my opinion.
Yeah. So I think what I came across is that guy is a total hoaxer.
Is he really?
Yeah. And he's pulled off hoaxes in the past. And people literally have no idea how this guy got as far as like Congress. And it's basically as simple as that. Like the thing was probably made out of paper mache.
What the fuck?
Yeah, which sucks because I mean you have to remember. Well, we're in a time when it's very exciting. There's high demand for this type of content, but at the end of the day, most of the stuff that people are talking about is total bullshit. And we have to remember, we have to still sort of look at the facts and use our own judgment on what we think is real and bullshit, because there's still a lot of bullshit out there. And this seems to be one of those cases.
I can't really tell if that's disappointing or good that we like outed this guy as a hoaxer, but at the same time, he literally incited a congressional hearing in Mexico. Like that, there's just so much other shit, or maybe not. Maybe the Mexican Congress isn't doing anything better than this, but it's like,
Right, exactly.
but like, how the fuck did it get to that point where he's like, yeah, I have evidence like that these things exist, and like, if he's a known hoaxer, why the fuck wasn't he sniffed out beforehand?
That's a great question. I think that's what a lot of people are wondering. It really doesn't make sense, and I definitely think it's unfortunate for the UFO community for things like that. I mean, there's people who are in group chats whose friends don't believe them on this stuff, and then they send a link like that, and the next day the friend says this was bullshit the whole time. Now it's like, oh man, well, there goes all the credibility of this guy who believes in UFOs that are probably real, but instances like this muddy the waters so bad that it's just very negative for the community.
Yeah, I just looked it up, and not to resurface like COVID or anything and treatment, but he was also very tied to a natural remedy cure for COVID that did not have any scientific backing whatsoever. So yeah, it shows you a little bit about who this guy is.
It shows a little bit about Mexican Congress and how little research they're doing before they're putting on these massive hearings. It just doesn't make sense.
Jesus Christ.
You wonder if the guy was like, didn't expect to get that far, and he's standing in front of Congress and he's like, oh shit, didn't think I'd make it this far. You know?
Damn.
Because they x-rayed these things and they're like, yeah, this is definitely not human. There's no form of human life. And
I believe he x-rayed them.
Oh, he did? Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
So he probably didn't.
Yeah. He probably fabricated the images.
What a jerk. Like that, it totally discredits the whole movement too. It's like, that's why
That's
people don't believe this shit.
Exactly. That's the problem with things like this. It's very unfortunate because I think it's a very real phenomena, but there's still assholes like this who are just totally muddying the waters.
Yeah, it's really stupid. So that's talking UFOs and aliens. Just to wrap up, I know this is of interest to UConn. This actually went down this week, but Joran Sloot, the Natalee Holloway case, finally some sort of solace for the Holloway family, just not knowing for certain. Obviously, all signs pointed to Sloot doing the killing in 2005 of Natalee Holloway. He went up for trial for extortion, actually, of the family of all things. He pled guilty, and then in his sort of statement said that he killed Natalee. Like, super wild ending to that, because everyone's like, no, this guy's an asshole. Like, he's never going to admit it. And he did in court. I mean, like, your initial thoughts on all this shit. This is one of the longest cases, I feel like. I remember we were 8 years old coming up with that.
Mm-hmm.
And like,
I remember
thing, like all our parents, like my parents would say, like, look at this, like, you got to keep your wherewithal and stuff like that. They pointed to Natalee Holloway. And now, like, one of the cases that we came up with in childhood is, I guess, solved, like, for good.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, it was one of those cases where it was like, this guy obviously did it, sort of like the Doulos case, you know?
Yeah.
It's just, they just didn't have the evidence. I think what happened was he was trying to extort $400,000 from her. He basically said, I'll tell you where the body is if you give me $400,000.
Yeah.
And so authorities were like, all right, dude. So that's your confession, basically. And then he basically admitted to everything that he did and how he did it. So, I mean, it doesn't really change his life. That's the thing. He's been in prison since 2010. He murdered another girl in Peru, I believe.
Yeah. Some fucking smart move. Like, oh, you were they don't have enough to get you on murder, but you just murder somebody else. Like, all right.
Yeah, exactly. And I think he's passed the statute of limitations for the Holloway case, right?
Yeah,
Aruba.
I read something that Aruba can't really prosecute it now because, like, what else are they going to do, right?
Yeah.
It's far past the statute of limitations. But, like, he said, pretty gruesome too. Like, killed her with a cinder block and left her in the fucking ocean. I mean, that's a horrible, just gruesome crime.
He was trying to make advances on her, and then I guess she kicked him in the balls, and then he responded by kicking her really hard in the face, knocked her unconscious, said she might have been dead at this point already, and then just grabbed a nearby cinder block and smashed it into her face and threw her body into the ocean.
Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean, this whole case was, that obviously goes back to 2010 and stuff, but the guy was a known scumbag to many different groups, and I think to see at least there's solace, right? Like there's some solace in knowing that, like, a known criminal is now going down in the books as a convicted criminal, right? Like I think there's at least something to be said about the due process that he did end up facing.
Exactly. Yeah. Same thing with the Tupac case.
Right.
It's just some closure that doesn't really get us anywhere, but we have answers.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else on the Sloot Holloway case? Anything that was of interest to you as we close out here?
I wouldn't say so.
Yeah.
It's solved.
Yeah.
We could go to
solved.
we can sleep.
Not many.
The Holloway family can sleep now.
Yeah. Hey, not many times in your world can we stamp something that's been open for so long as solved. So it's a win.
Yeah, exactly.
The scumbag gets what he deserves, hopefully, and it's at least some people can sleep. But
yeah.
Closing thoughts. Any other spooky shit you want to go over? Any things to look out for maybe these next couple months, as far as like things that could be on the radar in this UFO world, or anything else, or any closing comments here?
I think we're going to see a lot more in terms of the UFO stuff. A lot more people are going to come out. I think hopefully a lot more footage will be released. Hopefully it's not, if we see a full-scale alien invasion, then I can guarantee you that it is Project Bluebeam and probably the government, and they're probably trying to scare us for power. But hopefully it doesn't go that far. Hopefully that's not actually the case. And it's just
all in time for election season.
Oh yeah. Oh man, get ready. Next year. Oh boy, it's gonna be a crazy one. I don't know what they're gonna do. They're gonna do something.
I guess one thing to close out too, as we head into Halloween, not next week, the week after, top movies people should be watching.
I haven't seen it yet, but I heard Talk to Me is like the horror movie of the year. It came out last year. I think it was made by some YouTubers. And yeah, I heard it's really good. It's like some it's basically like the plot goes, it's like this demon hand, and it's like their party drug. So like talking to this demon is like their drug. Like it feels really good. And so some of them I guess maybe get trapped in talking to this demon. But it's apparently really good. I'll probably watch it this weekend.
It is 7.2 on IMDb and 94% on Rotten Tomatoes. Not too bad.
There you go. Yeah. Made by a couple YouTubers. I would say those guys are making the best content these days.
So we're gonna get a Morbid Facts movie one day.
Oh yeah, for sure. More likely a documentary.
Podcast first. We're still talking about it. Yeah.
Have you been on any other pods recently besides the few crime podcasts you've been on in the past?
No, I haven't. I get asked all the time, but I'm a hard guy to reach, I guess.
Exclusivity with Beers, Business, and Balls.
Exactly.
Even exclusive contracts.
I cannot complain.
You were grandfathered into our resident sort of morbid facts guy, our resident spooky guy, if you will.
That's awesome. We still have to do the podcast where the BBB Morbid Facts, Morbid beer, morbid balls, morbid
Oh
business.
shit!
Yes.
We might have to do that in person.
We should do that in person.
That was supposed to be this, I think, this season. But when you come up for the beer festival, as our annual tradition continues, that's a sit down.
Yeah, we should definitely do that.
I think
that's a good one.
Fun. We can, we'll do some morbid beer. We'll do, that was definitely supposed to be this season. Now that I'm thinking about it,
we'll do it as a end of year or top of the year special.
Yeah, it's a special episode. It's an in-person episode. I mean, there will be beer consumed. There will be other stuff consumed, I'm sure.
Yes. Should we do it after the beer fest?
Oh God, there's a thought. It's a bad thought, but
that's a thought. Hop in a room and just do it.
Maybe we'll just do it at the beer festival.
Oh yeah, there you go.
That was the worst idea I think I've had. Yeah. Con, thank you. Plug your socials, steer people wherever you want to here.
Thank you guys. So you could follow me on TikTok at Con_Spiracy or at Morbid Archives. It's my backup. YouTube. I think it's just Con Spiracy is the name. Instagram, Morbid_facts. And that's about it. If you search at Morbid Facts, I'll probably come up.
Yes, you will. Thank you for joining Con. Thank you, everybody who gave us some love on these past couple beer episodes. Appreciate it. We'll be back next week. So long, everybody.
Take it easy.
Thank you, guys.